G'day, Professor Joseph Drew here. I'm here to talk to you this time about the principle of double effect. A lot of people won't know what this principle is, but it's absolutely essential to the operation of our common law system, and it's absolutely essential to good decision making in local government. Okay, so the principle of double effect was first articulated by Thomas Aquinas, natural law philosopher and these days a saint. He has an imposing work called Summa Theologica. It's absolutely massive, and in this work it's got a legalistic character. He poses a whole heap of questions, and one of the questions, question 64, is when is it permissible for a person to take the life of another person? And he provides the example of a person sitting alone in their house, an intruder's coming, intruder that's likely to do him harm. Is it permissible for you to use force to repel that intruder, even if there is a remote foreseeable consequence that you could kill the intruder? And he lays out a set of criteria, and if you meet these criteria, even if the intruder dies, you are not morally culpable and you're not legally culpable. And I'll go through this criteria in a second. So a concise definition is up here on the screen, and I imagine the best bet would be, if you want this definition, is to pause the screen and write it down and read it carefully. But the main thing is that it talks about whether it's morally permissible to do something if there's a foreseeable bad side effect that might occur. Not something you're intending, a side effect. It has to be not intended, the side effect. It has to be foreseeable but not certain. And to ensure this, one of the additions to this definition that I put forward myself is that you should take all efforts to mitigate this undesired side effect. And through doing that, you show that your intent is pure. And of course, as I said previously, to even consider doing something that could end badly, you have to have a proportionately grave reason for undertaking it. So it needs to be in response to something really important, not a trivial thing. So there are a lot of public policy lessons that can be gleaned from this, and it's particularly important to local government. And these are the three main lessons I want you to walk away with. Laudable ends, good ends, can never justify bad means. You cannot, the means do not justify the end. You cannot do bad things, be in the habit of doing bad things, and be consistent with the natural law and be a virtuous person. It's just not possible. So if you have to do something bad to get a good outcome, if you choose to do that, you're not a virtuous person. And in the final analysis, your act cannot be deemed to be a good act. However, foreseeable bad consequences that aren't intended are always a public policy contingency. Bad things do happen. Public policies do go astray. And provided you've taken all possible measures to mitigate bad outcomes, bad side effects, well, then it's fine to proceed. Because if you didn't allow people to do public policy when there was a possibility of bad side effects, well, we wouldn't get much public policy done at all. Now, let's face it, most public policy does carry with it significant risk. And the third thing, as I emphasized before, to even be thinking about doing something that could go splat, that could wreck someone's life, that could significantly harm someone, to even think about that, you've got to have really important, grave reasons. So let's now look at how we can apply PDE in a public policy sense. Now, the long and the short of it is any public policy has the potential to create bad side effects for some people, maybe even many people. And if we never did anything because we were afraid of having possible bad contingencies, we probably would never do anything. So we need these rules of Aquinas to allow us to make good decisions and know the difference between when a public policy is wrong or when it's right. So the classic case is in relation to euthanasia, back when it was unlawful everywhere. So a person is dying, they're in incredible pain, and a doctor provides them high levels of pain relief, and it's foreseeable that the person will die, and in fact they do die. Okay, would this be morally culpable? Would this be legally culpable? We have to answer those three questions again. Was it for grave reasons? Yes, the person's under a lot of pain, agonizing pain. Was our intent good? Yes, we were merely trying to reduce the pain. We weren't trying to kill them. And was this bad side effect merely foreseeable, not definite? We weren't using a person as a means to another end, because that's always a no-no in natural law philosophy. And we did everything possible to mitigate this bad side effects. Did we take their vital signs and give them an appropriate dose, etc.? If you meet those three criteria, well, then the common law will say that you're not culpable at all, and morally you're not culpable. So let's look at some more specific local government examples here now. So many years ago, I wrote a paper in one of the best journals in the world showing that this principle of double effect could be applied to amalgamations. Were the local government amalgamations done for grave reasons? Were the councils about to go broke? It was really important that we did these amalgamations or not. Was the intent good? Was the intent all about making councils more financially sustainable, or did we have an ulterior motive like stripping planning powers off councils or gerrymandering councils so that our political party had more chance of getting in at the next local government election? And were the bad side effects merely foreseeable, not definite? And did we ensure that we weren't using people as a means to an end? And did we do everything to mitigate those bad side effects? Bad side effects such as councillors being dismissed as soon as the amalgamations were announced. Bad side effects such as GMs and senior directors losing their jobs. So that's one application in a local government sense. Another local government application is when you're considering rates. How many categories, how much of the burden to put onto each category. Once again, ask those questions. Are we doing this for grave reasons? Do we really need this taxation money? Yes, of course you do for public goods and services. But are you getting the amount that you need, or are you getting more than what you need in order to provide for wants? Is our intent good? Are we doing this with the intent of getting distributive justice, being just to all the categories of taxpayers? Or are we doing this with an intent of making one particular category happy at the expense of another? And if there's any foreseeable bad side effects, are we doing everything possible to mitigate these side effects? For instance, are we communicating clearly with the community and getting community feedback and listening to all their suggestions about how we could do this in a more distributively just manner? Another example of local government application is when you're considering providing a new good or service, particularly if it's heavily subsidised or essentially free. Is there grave reasons for doing this? Is this a real community need? Or is it just a want? In which case it probably doesn't meet the criteria for PDE, particularly if it's an electorally popular want and we're coming up to an election. Is our intent good? Are we trying to meet and satisfy a real need and grow our community, or are we trying to get ourselves voted back in? If there's bad side effects, such as taxpayers having to pay more, for instance, what are we doing to mitigate these bad side effects? Are we cutting costs in other areas? Are we looking at all our discretionary spending? Are we re-examining our tax structure and our fees to ensure that we can get sufficient revenue from elsewhere without having to visit harm on the taxpayers in order to pay for this new service or good? These are the sorts of questions, and hopefully now you can see why PDE is such a powerful tool for public policy decision making. So I now trust that you understand how PDE can help you to make better decisions for your community, more morally licit decisions that'll result in good outcomes and good communities, which we need to live the good life. So if you found this video useful, please help me by subscribing and sending the link to other people. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.